you. But today, curtains open for the new curriculum pilot that is currently being launched at the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development by the Education Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i. This pilot will be a phase that will take place in 470 schools. To see how it will work out, currently Matiang'i is speaking. Let's just cross over there live and listen in.
Technical team, Professor Kane, Professor Airo, and so on. This team of Kenyans is doing a great job for Kenya. And we're grateful for the support that we have received from some of our partners where we have needed to seek information and to compare notes. But this exercise has been done by Kenyans, 100%. And we are proud of it. And that is the way the government wants it. We are designing a curriculum for Kenyan children. We understand our responsibilities, and we know what we need to prepare our children to do. Nothing stops us from seeking information, and I can assure you, through all these teams of smart, solid people, we've sought a lot of information. We had teams from the universities. It's just that it was an oversight. I would have liked to parade the teams from the universities that were involved in this exercise, but at an appropriate time, we will do that. We'll parade the colleagues from Kenyatta University, Moi University, University of Nairobi, and the rest, Kenyan academics who have worked with us in this exercise. And because of that, it's one that we're very proud of. I'm very grateful to the faith-based organizations across the spectrum of faith and religion. We consulted very widely, and all the stakeholders were in on this. It's been a very inclusive exercise that has been very successful. So, and even the teachers we are using to go through some of the materials, like the 250 teachers who are in Naivasha right now, that Dr. Joan made reference to, they are Kenyan teachers whom we are working with to ensure that we get the right thing. I'd like to spend the next 5 minutes of my speech to complete this, to say that a lot of planning is in place. We were allocated sufficient resources from the National Treasury to move this process forward. And in working on this curriculum, no one should have any fear, because we had a subcommittee costing the implementation of this curriculum, because we want to keep an eye on the cost of implementing this curriculum, what it will mean in terms of our budgetary resources, so that we don't take a decision and then later on we can't live by it because it's too expensive to implement. And our subcommittee that has been working on the cost of the curriculum has done a fantastic job. We've worked on very many frequencies. We have cranked data, worked back and forth on it. And the time we complete this exercise and begin implementing the new curriculum, we will be taking decisions that we know we can live with financially, that can be accommodated by our national budget as we go forward. So all views are welcome. It's an open process. It's good for colleagues across the board to comment on this. But I need to say this as a responsible citizen. My brothers and sisters, this is an important national exercise which should not be subject to politics and things that are irrelevant to the education of our children. I am in no position to comment about a world that I do not know, called politics. We are all technical people who have been given a very specific assignment that is so clear to all of us. The task at hand and the task ahead of us is crystal clear, and let's focus on it.
All right, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, Education Cabinet Secretary there, making his address at the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development as he launches the first phase of the pilot curriculum changes 2663 that will take over the 844, and this is going to take place in more than 400 schools, so we will definitely going back to that. But I wrap up Worldview at this point. Many thanks for joining us. My name is Akisa Wandera, but my colleague Betty Kialo comes in next with 2 hours of News Center. I'm imagining you will have a busy day today.
It's going to be a crazy day. Of course, a lot is happening, especially with this curriculum launch.
There's the nominations as well.
Nominations, of course, we're waiting for the Jubilee primaries to start tomorrow.
Yes.
Everybody's waiting to see this. At least they staggered it, so it's not a mini election anymore.
Yeah, it's not a mini.
But also, apart from that, we're waiting for that major
Announcement from Bomas.
Did they say announcement? Because they're always talking about a major announcement, but that never seems to happen.
Well, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed today. We have our team on the ground. Rita Tanina is going to be updating us on that. They call it historic.
Yes.
Historic and monumental meeting that's taking place in regards to NASA. So, of course, NewsSet is going to be starting in a few minutes. My name is Betty Callow. Thank you very much for joining us. So what we'll do right now is we'll go back to listen in to that launch by Fred Matiang'i, and then we'll be continuing with our bulletin shortly.
Smart. The curriculum we are rolling out, or we're intending to roll out, will emphasize on competencies, development of skills. That curriculum is looking at what we describe as 21st century skills. We are preparing our children to operate in a new globalized competitive environment so that they develop the skills they will need to successfully operate in that environment. We are looking at increasing and strengthening our learning outcomes as we go. I keep thinking about this, that we, all of us, my colleagues, we're in the education sector. Why should Finland have such high learning outcomes and we don't? We are putting a lot of resources in education ourselves. So it's time for us to take this opportunity very seriously and ensure that the skills we want to impart are truly imparted, and you guys who are teaching and who are with our children, who are with our colleagues, teachers, we want your views after this pilot stage. It will lead to many changes as we go forward. The curriculum for teacher training will change for sure. And by next year, we will announce also a new curriculum for teacher training. The new teacher will be different from today's teacher, because you will be teaching in a changed environment that's much more learner-centered. It will require you to have more skills. And we are working on a new curriculum that will prepare you even better to deal with the 21st century learner so that you can operate better in that kind of dynamic environment. We would want our teachers to have more skills to deliver content on a digital framework, because content is migrating to the digital platform through our digital literacy program, and learning is moving more and more into the digital space. And we want our teachers to be prepared to deliver content within that framework. And therefore, the curriculum will address this as we change. We are working gradually in measured steps, but very surely and scientifically, so that we ensure that we are producing a curriculum that will fit Kenya and truly modernize our learning environment. On behalf of government, I want to assure you that we will intensify our collaboration with our colleagues in the Ministry of Interior. Where you need support, we have worked very well before, and we continue to work very well with them and other agencies of government to ensure that we deliver this curriculum reform. And during the pilot, we will do the same. We have sufficient resources in our budget to support this work. I thank all my colleagues who have worked hard on this, our regional coordinators who keep traveling far and wide, our county directors who work so hard traversing counties across the country, and all of you, my colleagues, the head teachers, who are our frontier people, because you are the ones on the ground on a day-to-day basis with our children. I thank you very much. But before I sit down, I need to remind you that we are approaching second term, because I will not get this opportunity to talk to you before we begin the next term. And usually second term in the past has been presenting challenges to all of us. I'd like us to be a bit more vigilant in our schools, be close to our children, be able to understand what is going on. In due course, we will release the report of the Claire Omolo team that looked at the cases of unrest in schools last year. And during that time, I will have an opportunity to talk more about it. But I want to ask you, my colleagues, that let's pay attention. We are also in an interesting season, as you know. We are trying to populate the leadership space and because of that, there's a lot of back and forth happening. Please keep our children peaceful and focused on studies. Keep our schools safe, and try the best you can to ensure that our children are not disturbed by the excitement that goes on out there. Our account directors, we are going to have our own conversation later. I think these times usually present challenges, especially to the county directors, but we will support you as you work on this. But please make sure that our schools remain safe and they remain learning environments where there is less disturbance because of the excitement of what is going on there. Thank you so much. May the Lord strengthen our hand for the good work ahead, and God bless you.
Let's give another clap to the CS. Thank you very much, CS. We do appreciate, and indeed, as you've said, the area we are moving into is the area of learning to learn. That is learning, always being prepared to learn something new, adjust, and do new things as the environment requires. And equally, the digital platform, which many of you have already engaged with, as teachers who are being trained for the DLP, is going to be highly expanded within the new curriculum. After consulting, I'm told that the CS will give us very few minutes to ask questions, because this is an opportunity that some of us may never have. If somebody has something burning that is relevant to what he has raised, then we can take 1-2 questions, and then we'll announce what the next stage of the program will be. My colleagues, if you could pass across microphone. We have some people who are upstairs. You are not forgotten. Now, as you think of asking the questions, I should mention that, as my chair advised me, these are going to be our learning centers. She told me that we move away from the word centers of excellence because it makes us feel very proud. But you are going to be the learning centers, as you will be told in the next session, so that you will be helping us to mentor and expand the training to your colleagues, so you will form a cluster of collaborating institutions, and you will be providing instructional leadership to your teams in your various counties. So at least you bear that in mind as you ask if there's anybody with a question. There's a hand there. Whoever has the microphone. We should have more than one microphone going around to save on time. Please say your name, if possible, your school and county, very fast, and you make it brief.
Thank you. I'm Zil Poraja. Sorry, complex is useful. Mine is not a question, but a request. That the tablets that were given to the public schools, could we extend a hand to the private schools, please?
Okay. Well, that is part of the DLP. I can see the CS and the PS consulting. So any other? Thank you for that. Any other comment, question, request? Oh, there's a hand up there. The microphone is right behind you.
Just before I go to the mic.
Oh, okay, there's fine. Go ahead, please. Your name?
This is Keverende from AIC Academy, Kabartonio, in Balimo County.
Okay.
I just wanted to actually ask a question on, now that you have decided out as schools for the piloting, the resources like, because I happen to have come across what is in the structure of that proposed system, is that you need to add some other resources in school. So maybe with our able CS, maybe you will help us at least have those additional materials, because with the academies, we have to actually, we get the funds from the parents. So I think you know, factor the issue of the private schools for funding.
Okay. Okay, I think we have noted that, but part of what you're asking will be explained in the next session when we start going through what we'll be engaged in.
Thank you very much, our hard-working CS and all protocol observed. I'm Opora Robert from Western Region, that's Kakamega County, a teacher Kakamega Township. Our CS, first of all, I want to give you total assurance that as head teachers of the schools, particularly those of us who are here, we support the curriculum reforms. So you should stay assured that when we leave here, we shall be your good ambassadors for our colleagues who are not here. Number two, I want to request that you gave us tablets. I want to thank you sincerely. And you had also, through your ministry, given us some 60 shillings towards the rooms where the tablets should be placed.
60,000?
60,000.
Yes.
60,000. 60,000 shillings. Our hard-working CAs, sincerely speaking, the 60,000 shillings that you gave us was not actually enough to refurbish the room where the tablets are supposed to be placed. So we are requesting that if additional funding can be made, now that the pilot schools will be visited by visitors from international countries,
yes,
by professors, including yourself, we want to have facilities that are admired. Thank you very much. And
thank you.
Our dear CS, we love you and we support you.
Thank you.
You have brought sanity and education. We tell people we need you. But can you kindly also do something to the pilot schools on general infrastructure of schools? Some schools look like museums and they are in urban centers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. I'm sure. Okay, one last one. We have another activity which we also want you. Okay, the CS has graciously accepted that he will take 3 more. And please don't repeat a point that has already been raised.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm Marco Ketch, MPIS, Homa Bay County. I've got 2 questions. One, why is it that this project is going to start in the middle of the year? Why not at the beginning of the year? Okay. 2, next term is about 2 weeks from now. And we're going to start this program back at our schools. Are our teachers already trained for this? Or are there programs for it to be trained so that as we go in, we start once ago? Thank you.
Thank you.
Question, sir?
If you allow me, some of the questions you are raising will be in the next session. We have a session that is going to take us, if you check your program, so they will be covered. Okay, thank you. Can we have a man and a lady? There's a lady there. Gender.
The Cabinet Secretary. I'm Akofo Ngige. My school is Christian Primary from Kisumu County, Kisumu West Sub-County. I have a burning question, which I think the Cabinet Secretary and Principal Secretary will help us. We are not running away from our country. There is this election, which is actually really interfering with our learning areas, because some of our schools are actually along the roads, and as they go around, that much interference. My worry, and probably the worry of everybody, is the August. I look at the candidates, and I'm seeing that that time when election is going to take place, we'll actually find when we are winding up and we are still on. So if it is in if you can look at it, sir, what are you going to do about the candidates? Some of our schools are also the centers and are really being interfered with. So that is my plea and my worry. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. There's a lady there.
Yes, and my colleague. My name is Salome Mbidembike from Makueni County, Kiatina Primary School. We appreciate the tablets that are in our schools, but I have one worry. Some of the pilot schools here have not yet received their tablets, and some of us are ahead of them in training. So I'm just wondering what will become of those who are behind us. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that is a very critical one. So do we now give the CS a chance? Okay. If you allow me, CS, just one more lady to close it up. I presume something new? Thank you.
Thank you so much for the honor. I'm Mrs. Lydia Sagasi from Nandi County. I'm in Baraka School, Kapsabet. Now, my question first, before I set the question, I want to humbly thank our CS. I don't know. The measure in which he has brought back the education sector to its foot cannot be described. Asante sana Mheshimiwa. I know I've worked with Dr. Belio in many areas in Nandi County, but my question now comes. As private schools, we had a deal with JKF to give us also tablets privately. But unfortunately, we have waited for these things in vain because we were told that the CS stopped the Jomo Kenyatta from providing us with these tablets until the entire public sector schools have been provided with theirs. Is this not a bit unfair to the private schools? Bwana CS, we really appeal. If that is the case, can you kindly, those of us who are able to afford to buy the tablets directly from JK or private schools, let's please get them. Thank you.
Thank you, CS. I think we hand over to you. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your questions. I think, I mean, an interaction like this is good because we also get to understand. I wish we had many town halls because as I saw people ask questions, I was asking the PS. I think we need to intensify efforts so that we allow, a point of interaction more with our head teachers because there are certain things we would know better and much more clearly if we had direct interactions with you. So it's okay. I think I'm going to take advantage of the Kenya Primary Schools Heads Association meeting and I'll request Mr. Ndolo, your national chairman, to create and provide for a town hall for the PS and myself to just hang out, even if it's 2 hours, to answer questions from you and interact with you so that we are able to know exactly what is going on in your schools and your reality. Because nothing replaces the practical experience of the people on the ground on a day-to-day basis. And that is why, much as it has not been popular in certain quarters, my going to schools has been very educative even to me. To know what is happening in your schools, and when I come by, I get to discover certain things that are good for us to know so that we know how we can help one another so we go forward. Now, there are 7 questions. Some of them overlap in some way. So what I'll do is I'll try to respond to those issues that overlap, like now private schools and tablets. How do we work as pilot schools when we are not at the same level, and so on and so forth. Then those that may be specific, like Robert's question about the 60,000 shillings, the question of elections, I'll answer them. So I'll cluster them into basically three issues. Number one, let me tell you, my colleagues, we are aware completely, all of us, the team at KICD that designed this pilot, we are aware, and that is why it's very good for us, that we don't have what you may call operational or infrastructural homogeneity. When you are conducting a research, the schools across Kenya are not equal, exact same schools. There are some schools where they have certain challenges. Others have received tablets, others have not, and so on. And that is why this sample was selected scientifically, so that we can actually have the reality of what we have in the field. So, my sister, we are aware that you may be ahead of your colleagues in another school who have just received tablets or who haven't received tablets. And we have designed the pilot in such a way that it addresses those issues. Because in any case, even as we implement the curriculum, there are certain disparities that we see in the field. Even now, if we actually had time to talk to each one of you, we know that there are certain things about your schools that are different as you are, depending on the region where you are at in the country, whether you're urban or rural, whether you're private or public, and whether you're a special needs school. So that diversity or the differences that you see is very good for us, because we want to be able then to take you through gradually on how you are going to implement the curriculum. Because if we waited so that you have exact same schools, exact same conditions before you introduce a curriculum, you may actually be waiting until the second coming of Jesus Christ. So I think the most important thing is let's just go ahead. We are completely aware. And when you start listening to my colleagues, the teams that you are meeting today, you will see how they have taken care of that in terms of what decisions we have taken as we pilot to address the changes or the differences that may be available in your schools. That too applies to the issue of the teachers. We are aware that even as we were preparing teachers under the DLP framework, we know we haven't covered the country. We've done about 80,000 teachers, and we are still going on. Now, that is an important dynamic, and we will tell you shortly how that will play out when we start piloting the new curriculum in your school. So it's good that you asked the question, and it shows that you are actually completely ready to address yourself to the circumstances that we are dealing with. Now, on the issue of private schools and tablets, this is a matter we have been dealing with the Kenya Private Schools Association. I want to quote our president. President Kenyatta says all the time, there are no private children and there are no public children. They are all my children. They are my responsibility as president. And the president has pushed this. That is how we ended up, paying examination fees for candidates from private schools. Professor Magwa is preparing exams for everyone, and the government is writing one check for everyone, which means those who are in private and those who are in public schools. Then now there's the dynamic that we have to deal with when it comes to the deployment of public funds, as it were. My colleague, the PS, is leading a team that is engaging with our colleagues at the Ministry of ICT and the two universities that are involved in this on how we will support the private schools that would like to have, the tablets, and how we can enable you to do that. So, my sister from Baraka, it is not true that my colleague, CS Musheru, stopped, Jomo Kenyatta from selling tablets to you. Essentially, what CS Musheru is saying is we do it in a coordinated manner across the country, so that private schools across the board come to the table in the same way on this particular issue of tablets. And he's quite right, because policy harmony is critical. Because if you have disparities in the way in which you are going to implement a critical policy like this, we will end up having certain challenges, which we all want to avoid. And we are discussing this, we are working on this, and this involves us, the Ministry of ICT, and our colleagues in the National Treasury. And in due course, private schools will be on board. Already we started by saying, you can benefit from the training. And we opened that up and said, DLP training is available for even private schools with no discrimination at all. That is also going to the digital content and so on. So do not feel at all, and I want to assure you, take my word, I want to assure you, you have no reason to feel discriminated against. And my colleague, the PS, was with KEPSA last week. The Kenya Private Schools Association went deep into this issue, and we continue engaging on this matter. We are soon going to be able to produce, the tablets here when the factory in Eldoret is done and JKUR is completely done, and we will all be fine and happy. And we do not want to discriminate. It's not the policy of government that we discriminate anyone, and please do not feel discriminated against at all. Now, the 60,000. Robert, I hear you. And thank you for your comments. We are looking into this. And by the way, to be honest with you, this is not the first time that, we're hearing this. On Tuesday, when we were at the drama festivals, we were looking at this perennial issue that we are dealing with about how we will use the capitation resources we have to support co-curricular activities. It's beginning to look like, in certain cases, even when we expect you as head teachers to mount and support certain co-curricular activities, the way we have aligned the capitation doesn't support you much. So that ends up being less. So we've had this from you. So we have a high-level team in the ministry that is working on this alignment, and effective from the next financial year, we will give you a new arrangement on how we want to distribute the resources so that you can have a little more money available for co-curricular activities, and then we'll begin to address, this issue of the 60,000 shillings. So we are together on this. We truly hear you, and we will seek solutions together as we move forward within the framework of the resources that we have been given by the National Treasury. My brother from Homa Bay and the question of the middle of the year. Soon, when my colleagues from KICD begin to discuss with you the design of the curriculum and the pilot, so many factors will become clear to you. For example, why it is necessary for us to pilot in this middle phase of the year, number one. Why it's important that we select the second term to do this. Because, you could also argue, and Professor Bosire will tell you shortly, the dynamic of trying to pilot a curriculum to a child who has come into a new class in the first week of the year, and the challenge of that. And you will soon listen to my colleagues who will explain to you why it's important for us to pick out the second term as the right time for us to pilot this. And as I said, this is scientific. So many factors have been looked into, and this is the right time for us to do the pilot, as it were. Of the many options we could have, this is the best, as it were. And this is what we think will give us the best results as we move forward. Now, the last question, which, of course, I would rather not address, but which affects all of us. The dynamic of elections and our school system. First, I understand, or we all understand, elections will be on 8th of August. The school term ends on 4th of August. And the way we designed this school term, we took into consideration that we would like our children to be home 4 days before the voting. Because schools, many of our schools are gazetted as polling stations. So by 4th, we ought to have cleared and left the schools so that now then IBC can use them as voting centers. In that respect, I don't think our school calendar will be interrupted or will be interfered with. You will be able to close your school 4 days in advance of the general election day, number one. Number two, as for the usual, politics comes with melodrama. You understand that. The fanfare and the people who shout, yell, wail, mourn, and do all manner of things around with drums and stuff like that. It's a very dramatic season, and we have seen most of it around the villages and the countryside. That's why I said it comes once in 5 years. Democracy has got its own downsides. Let's do the best we can to keep our schools safe. And I keep saying, as long as they don't come into our schools when our children are in session, let's try to be persuasive enough and tell them they are good people, we love them very much, but I think we love our children more, so they can stay a little bit outside the school gate. As long as they are outside the school gate, it's okay. And we try to keep the peace. I think it's a responsibility that we are all going to have to deal with. Everyone's life is being disrupted. I gave Professor Magoa time and mercy to talk about preparing for exams and the dynamics that we are looking at and how that will affect us. Each one of us is trying to position ourselves in such a way that we minimize any possible interruption to our activities and our programs by what we must do, because the elections is also something that we must do. We cannot say it's disturbing us. We need it so that we can continue. So let's try the best we can. My brother from Kisumu, let's do the best we can. For those of you whose schools happen to be near the roads and so on, let's try the best we can to keep the school safe. And as I said earlier, county directors, you work with the county commissioners. Where you anticipate any challenge or whatever, that's fine. And you see, the nomination exercise was timed to take place during the holiday. It will all be done and out of our way by the time we open schools in May, and then the elections will happen, when we have closed school. So let's try to live with that situation. I don't think we'll be disturbed too much. I know the loudspeakers and the PA address and the drums will disturb us a bit, especially if we are near marketplaces. But we can't wish them away. They're going to be there. Where we can quietly through provincial administration, we can persuade them to keep their drama a little bit away from the schools. But where they are not able to, the marketplace and the public rallies near the school, we try to keep our children inside and keep our children safe, avoid, children going to the roads and so on, because we don't want to lose any child on account of, political activity. It's a situation we have to live with. And lastly, there's one thing I know about us teachers. And all of us teachers have got one thing that many people do not have. We are very adaptive. We know how to adapt to situations. And I know that we will survive this one. And we will go ahead. 9th August will come, and the Lord will continue to take care of our children and will continue to do the good job that we always do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CS, for the elaborate answers. Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to the end of this session. Before I invite my chair to give a vote of thanks, I just want to make an announcement. After this session, we are going to have our tea within the tents. There are tents that are on the other side, on the right-hand side as you go out. But before you go for that tea, just because the CS and his team are so serious about the curriculum and the whole education sector supervision, we'll move to the front of the building where he's going to flag off the vehicles that are going to help us in ensuring that the implementation of the pilot is effective and well supervised.
Has officially been launched at the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. You have seen there the CS Fred Matiang'i has officiated that launch, and he had been answering questions from teachers and other stakeholders who are really concerned about this new curriculum. A lot of positivity from the CS, but then a lot of questions still linger on in the minds of many teachers. One of the questions that he was being asked about is, of course, to do with the training of this curriculum and how effective it will be if the teachers are not trained enough. And therefore, what the CS has said is that they will be having a discussion, actually many discussions before the launch of this new curriculum or before it takes effect. And therefore, all those questions will really be answered. But he remains very confident that it is indeed time for Kenya to start this new curriculum. Remember that the new curriculum is going to be tested in about 470 primary schools across the country, 10 in each county. That, of course, brings the number to 470. And this will be starting on the 29th of May. All right, so we'll be talking about that. We'll be having a discussion here in studio in regards to that. But for now, so we want to take a break. And then when we come back, we'll be focusing on so many other things. Of course, first of all, the primaries, and then you have the NASA history.